Good afternoon, everybody. We've got about 16 participants at the moment, just waiting a couple of minutes just to see if anybody else joins us, and we'll start the webinar. Okay, it's 2 minutes past 12, so I think we'll start there. Again, good afternoon to everybody on the call. This is a short webinar. Will probably take us about half an hour to run through moving Kickstart employees onto an apprenticeship. My name's Joe Keegan. I'm the team leader for the Skills and Apprenticeship Hub team in the growth platform, and my colleague Sue Ennis is also going to talk on this call, and she is a skills broker within the City region. Okay. So first of all, just to explain who we are and what we do. So we are a team of impartial skills brokers working across the City region to support employers in all aspects of workforce development, mainly around skills, but also we can pick up on things around recruitment. So what we can do is support you to recruit and train, retrain, and retain your staff through ongoing skills development. We work with a number of different funding streams. A number of people on the call may have heard of things like adult education budget. Obviously, there's the apprenticeship funding stream. You all know about Kickstart. So we're guiding employers to maximise funding towards training costs where we can. And we work with employers to identify training providers, local training providers, if we can, who can deliver against your training needs. We have got a chat function on this webinar, so if anybody wants to drop any questions in at any time during this session, please feel free to do that. We'll try our best to come to those questions at the end of the session. If we don't get a chance to answer your question today, what we will do is respond to those questions when we send out this particular presentation after today. So you will all have been aware of Kickstart, and obviously the government has invested in making sure that anybody can pick up on Kickstart and enable you to claim wages for Kickstart. So there is an investment there. Now what happens is clearly we're talking about investment in apprenticeships, and Sue is going to talk through the funding available and how it works. But clearly there is a distinction here between Kickstart and apprenticeships because there isn't any wage subsidy for apprenticeships. Okay. So we'll talk through that a little bit later on. So we are in a different position now with anyone that you're looking to move from Kickstart to apprenticeship. But an apprenticeship will provide a formal qualification, and it will enable you to transition your employee into your business to fit your business as best they can. And obviously you will have picked up on funded through Kickstart, which provided training or costs towards training and employability, moving that person more and more closer to be job ready. So now we're looking at providing some kind of vocational program, and we were talking about apprenticeships here, that will support that individual to move forward in terms of their career, and also will clearly support you in terms of moving your business forward. So what we do as a skills brokerage team, we can continue to support you. Clearly the gateway organisations have supported you on the Kickstart. We can support you moving forward on apprenticeships and any other training that you may need. So let's look and just recap on basically what apprenticeships are. It's a genuine job combined with paid employment, okay, and training. Okay, so it's a job with training. It's open to all, which is a minimum age of 16, but there's no upper age limit. We often get asked by employers whether there is an upper age limit, and there are certainly lots of misconceptions or preconceptions about apprenticeships. So we have to overcome those. It's a great workforce tool for workforce development. In terms of looking at existing staff and the skills gaps that they may have. Clearly, if you've got existing staff who are looking to upskill, we can look at apprenticeship route for them. It doesn't change their terms and conditions in any way. You know, it's a route to funding, it's a route for them to get a qualification. It's available from level 2 up to level 7. It can be 100% government funded, okay, depending on age. And also there's an opportunity to tap into the apprenticeship levy. Again, Sue can touch on that a bit later on. And it's a great tool for success planning, okay, and growing your own talent. So why do employees invest in apprenticeships? And as I said, we're in a different situation now, moving from Kickstart. Employees are starting to invest in those individuals and their employees to move them onto a vocational program and benefit the business. It's about building skills. Okay, so 82% of employers take on apprentices to build the skills capacity in their business. It reduces training costs because, as we've said, there's up to 100% funding available to support the apprenticeship program, and it increases productivity. You know, statistics suggest on average an apprentice improves productivity by £214 a week. So there's some real benefits to your business if you're looking to recruit somebody into an apprenticeship, or clearly as well move an existing member of staff onto an apprenticeship. I'm going to move over to Sue, and Sue's going to talk us through a number of slides around funding. Over to you, Sue.
Okay, thanks very much, Joe, and good afternoon to everybody. As Joe says, my name's Sue Ennis, and I'm a skills broker with the Growth Platform Skills and Apprenticeship team. So Joe's touched on a little bit of information there, particularly around today, looking at perhaps moving one of your Kickstart employees, if you have them, over to an apprentice, or taking on a new apprentice, or recruiting one of your current employees onto an apprenticeship. We can talk about all that, but one of the questions that we get that is brought up a lot is about apprenticeship funding. Obviously, as an employer, you want to know how much it's going to cost you and your business. So we'll try and cover a bit of that in the next few slides. So currently, as an employer, you can access up to 100% funding to take on an apprentice. So that is if you are an employer with fewer than 50 people in your organisation, and where the apprentices are aged 16 to 18 or 19 to 24, and they're a care leaver or have an education and healthcare plan. So we can help you with that if you want to understand more about eligibility for any of the candidates that you were thinking about. Otherwise, as an employer, the good news is that the government will fund 95% of the delivery of your apprenticeship. So that means as an employer, you just co-invest 5%. And as you can understand, as Joe mentioned, there are over 500 different types of apprenticeships, and they run across different lengths. So they'll take different times to complete, and lots of different levels as well. So they do come in at different costs, and we can help you understand that, how that works alongside with your co-investment and the government funding as well. But also, sometimes employers will say to us that the 5% is a barrier for them taking on an apprentice. So luckily, in the city region, we have some large employers who pay the apprenticeship levy. And sometimes the apprenticeship levy, they won't spend it all on their own apprentices. So rather than it going back to central government, they have agreed to transfer some of their levy to smaller employers in the city region. So you could access some support through the levy transfer if the 5% you feel is a barrier for you taking on the apprentice. And that's something we can help you with. We can support you through that process and help you liaise with the levy paying employer to do all that work for you. So that's something we can go into with a little bit more detail if you want to have a chat with us about that. Thanks, Joe. So on top of what we've just mentioned, the government funding for the delivery of the apprentice, there are also at the moment another incentive for taking on an apprentice. Now, this is really important at this point because it is time limited. And if you were thinking of recruiting an apprentice, we are coming up to the end of the incentive grant timeline. So that's why we're trying to press today that it is really important. If you are thinking of taking an apprentice on, then please speak to us as soon as possible about it so we can get you all the information and start the process and the ball rolling for you. But just to cover a little bit of what that is. So currently the government incentive grant is to take on a new apprentice or possibly move your Kickstart employee onto an apprenticeship, and it's £3,000 regardless of the age of the apprentice. It's paid in a couple of instalments, but we can explain how that works to you later on. So there's also an additional £1,000 on top if the apprentice that you're looking to recruit is 16 to 18 or again 19 to 24 and they're a care leaver or have the education and healthcare plan, and we can explain that eligibility to you as well. So as I say, it's really important. There is some eligibility around this, and the most important thing at the moment is the dates. So the £3,000 incentive grant applies to apprentices or employees who have been taken on since the 1st of April this year, 2021, and are still employed by you at the 30th of September 2021. So if you are looking to recruit a brand new apprentice, there's not much time left to fit in. So that's really important that you have a chat with us. But also if you have a Kickstart employee that you're thinking to move on to an apprentice to get the grant, then they must be employed by you still by the 30th of September. You can finish the Kickstart contract early and bring them forward so that you could get the £3,000 incentive, but we can explain how that works. Might sound a little bit complicated, but it's just important that we express to you that the incentive grant is running out by the 30th of September. Now, as long as they were employed from the 1st of April and they're still with you by the 30th of September, they must start the apprenticeship, however, by the end of November, okay? And we can explain how that works to you as well. Now, absolutely, if you have employees who have been recruited before April and you would still like to take them up, put them onto an apprenticeship, or if you're thinking of recruiting somebody after the 30th of September, that's absolutely fine. And we'll always encourage employers to do that. It's just that that will be outside of the remit for the £3,000 incentive. So we can go over that with you as well. Thanks, Joe. So obviously we've mentioned about the government grant towards the delivery of the apprenticeship, and hopefully you understand a little bit about that. But one of the other questions that we're asked, and this might be especially important around if you're looking to move a Kickstart onto an apprenticeship. With the Kickstart, as Joe mentioned, and you'll understand that you have had the salary paid for them, but as an apprentice, then it is your responsibility to pay the salary for the apprentice. So I'll just explain a little bit about how that works. There is a minimum apprenticeship wage that you can pay an apprentice, and that starts at £4.30 an hour, and that's regardless of age for the first 12 months of the apprenticeship. So there is a little table there, and we'll make sure that you receive all this information after the presentation so you can have a look at that. And this might be important to you if you're looking to make calculations for maybe bringing forward a Kickstart off the Kickstart contract and putting them onto an apprenticeship contract. So it will help you understand how you can calculate perhaps having the incentive grant costed against the salary. Now, you can pay an apprentice anything you like, and we would always encourage an employer to pay more than the £4.30 an hour, but that is the minimum that you can pay them for the first 12 months. If, for instance, an apprentice is 16 now, and after the first year is then 17, you can theoretically continue to pay them the £4.30. If an apprentice is 18 now, and they're still on their apprenticeship when they turn 19 after the first 12 months, then you will have to look at that table and the minimum rate of pay for their age. Okay. So as well as we mentioned before, you will get 95% of the delivery cost paid for by the government, so just 5% co-investments, and we can help you calculate what that is when we find the right apprenticeship standard with you. And again, we can look, if that is a real barrier for you taking on an apprentice, then we can have a chat with you around the apprenticeship levy and try and link you in with a levy paying employer in the region. As well, something to take into, to factor into the consideration when you do your calculations is that the employer contribution of the national insurance for an apprentice, if they're under 25, is you don't pay anything as the employer. So again, that all helps when you're trying to calculate how much it's going to cost you. Thanks, Joe. So Joe touched on a little bit as well about recruitment and how we can support you with that process. You may be really familiar with taking on apprentices, and that's absolutely fine. Any help we can do, then obviously we will. We are a completely free and impartial service, so we're not affiliated to any particular providers or anything. So we do give you impartial advice. But if you're completely new to taking on apprentices, or you want to discuss how to move your Kickstart employee onto an apprentice or a current employee, then we can most certainly help you with that information. And we can do that in a few different ways. We can match your vacancy requirement. So what you're looking to, skills requirement that you have and you're looking to fill within your company, we can make sure that it's matched to the right apprenticeship standard. As we say, there's hundreds and hundreds of different apprenticeship standards, and we can normally always match a job vacancy with an apprenticeship standard for you, but we can help you navigate that and try and find the right apprenticeship standard for you. And once we've done that, the next step is looking for a training provider who can deliver that apprenticeship standard to your apprentice through your business. And there are many different ways of delivering apprenticeships because apprenticeships are so different. Some may be a day release in college, some might be through a block release to the training provider, and some can all be delivered on site at the employer. So we can help match you with the right training provider who delivers that apprenticeship to fit your business and your business demands. We can advertise your vacancy free of charge. In the city region, we've got an apprenticeship support service and a website called Be More. And on there, we can advertise apprenticeship vacancies completely free that residents can go on and have a look at. Anybody can go on to have a look at that. We also got lots of apprenticeship news on there, apprenticeship events, and also real-time stories from apprentices and employers if you want to go and have a look on that website and see how that works. And we'll get that information over to you as well. But training providers who are going to deliver the apprenticeship to you, they can also help you with advertising. So they can advertise it nationally for you on their websites and push that out as well. They can also offer a free service for interview and selection. So if that's something that you would want support on, some employers would much prefer to do that themselves, but if you would want help through the interview process and the selection process, then your training provider can help you with that completely free of charge. And again, all the government grants and funding that we've discussed in this presentation, we can support you through accessing how to do that, how to make the application, and what's available at the time that you decide to take the apprentice on. And something really interesting to remember as well, in a city region, apprentices, if they're between 19 and 24, can access half-price bus and rail travel. I think Halton's a little bit different. So if you're a Halton employee, we can have a chat with you how that works. But that's really good, especially if an apprentice is on a minimum wage. That can be a really good recruitment incentive. Thanks, Joe. So I'll just touch on a little bit as well about other skills funding. So this can apply to any apprentice that you take on or any of your other employees or yourself that you're looking for additional skills and how to access funds to go on the training. So obviously there's national schemes such as the apprenticeship, traineeships, the adult education budget. But also uniquely in the city region, we have an European social fund stream called Be More. And this can help support training when none of the other funding streams are available. And that can be up to 70% funded towards the cost of the training. And we can explain how that works with you and the eligibility. Absolutely, we'll go through that with you. So one of the team will work with you to identify the appropriate training that you're looking for to fill a skills gap and the best funding stream to be able to access that training. And we'll also help signpost you to relevant training providers. We have, within the growth platform, we have a network of training providers who've gone through a due diligence process with us. So hopefully we'll be able to find the best training provider to fit what your training you're looking for. So if I can just explain a little bit more about the Be More funding to you, especially around the theme today that we're talking about with apprentices and perhaps moving your Kickstart or an employee onto an apprenticeship. We have a course that we've delivered really successfully and still running through the Be More funding, and it's called Supporting and Mentoring an Apprentice in the Workplace. It can be funded through the Be More from as little as £27 per person. And if you just move on, Joe, I'll just explain a little bit more about this course. So it's a one-day course. It's delivered by one of our approved training providers called 3-Dimensional Training. And it covers lots of the areas of taking on an apprentice. Now, as I say, you may be completely familiar with recruiting and taking an apprentice on, but it could be that this is a first time for you, or you have somebody new in your organisation who you'd like to take responsibility for your apprentices, or you'd just like to refresh yourself or have a little bit more support. And that's all covered in this one-day course. So some of the things I'll cover are the terminology and the documents that you might not be familiar with. So also you might hear something about you have to have a mentor when you take on an apprentice to support that apprentice and help them overcome any barriers to success and achieving the apprenticeship. So the course will cover about what a mentor is, how to have one in your business, and how that will work for you. Also, funding of the apprentice. So you need to set up a digital apprenticeship service, a DAS account. It's an electronic account that all employers have to set up to take on an apprentice. And this course will help cover that. It'll simplify the process for you, explain what it is, why it's there, how to use it, and how to set it up and everything. So that's really useful. Compliance, taking on an apprentice. So you will hear terms like apprenticeship agreement and commitment statement. This course will cover information and simplify that process for you, explaining what those documents are, why you need them, and how it operates within the business. Also terminology that you might hear, such as off the job and on the job training, an 80-20% split. What does that mean? What does that mean to the business? What does it mean to your apprentice? How that works. So again, all that sort of terminology will be explained to you throughout the course and how you can understand it better. And obviously the other paperwork and documents. So get the most from those agreements that you need to set up, how you do that between the employer, the training provider and the apprentice, what it all means, and how to simplify that process with you. So hopefully that's covered, and I know it's only brief, but hopefully we've covered a little bit about the funding for you, the additional support that we can help you with, especially if you're looking to access the additional funding, the incentives that's available at the moment, perhaps moving your Kickstart onto an apprentice, or questions around anybody you might have within the business that you want to put on an apprentice now. And I'll pass you back over to Joe. So thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Sue. Yeah, so a lot of information there, folks. So it's clearly we're here to support you if you've got questions after today. The whole skills landscape, both apprenticeships and other funding streams, can be quite complicated. Different eligibility criteria, trying to hit different types of learners with different skills needs. So, you know, we're here if you need us. And if you go to the link on the growth platform there, growthplatform.org/skills-brokers, we've recently updated that particular page. So you will see on there a copy of our skills brokerage brochure, which explains everything about what we do. You'll see some case studies on there of employers that we've supported. At the moment, we've had over 1,000 employers that have registered with us. We've issued just short of 600 grants to employers through the Be More Fund. And you will also see on that page a list of qualifications or training that we have funded through the Be More project. Okay, so if there is any other skills needs outside of apprenticeships that you need as employers, then it's always worth having a look at that page, registering with us, and then one of the skills brokers will contact you and talk through your specific training needs. Clearly, if you'd like to speak to one of the team before registering, you can email us at the skillsbrokers@growthplatform.org email address. So we'll pick it up from there. But yeah, we're here to provide any information you need around skills, apprenticeships or training. Okay, we're just coming up to about 25. We're on 25 past 12 now. We were hoping to finish for 12:30. We're just going to pick up on any questions that have come through from the chat. And I know Phil Kane is on the call and he's been picking up some of the chat questions as well. So Phil, do you want to pick this bit up in terms of chat? You're on mute, mate.
By all means, if there's any other questions that anybody's got, more than happy to try and answer them. Linking to, do we think that the grants will be extended? We've asked the question, but we haven't had anything formally come back through yet. So I would say at this time, you've got to take it as read that it's not going to be extended.
Phil, one thing that I didn't touch on with the Kickstart that you might be able to explain a little bit better is that if an employer has a Kickstart, it's through a Gateway Plus.
Yeah.
So obviously the eligibility for them to be employed. Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so obviously if somebody's got a member of staff and they're on a Gateway Plus position, then they're employed currently by your Gateway Plus gateway. So in essence, they would need to come off the Gateway Plus and be employed by yourselves for you to be able to access the grant.
Thanks.
Okay, we've got a question from Emma. So if we are moving a Kickstart employee onto an apprenticeship, do we have to pay them the same amount as they were on the Kickstart program? I can pick that up. Do you want to pick that up?
You pick it up.
Yeah, I'll pick it up. Okay, that's fine. So clearly, Emma, as we said before, legally, you can pay them the apprenticeship minimum wage of £4.30 for the first 12 months. So you don't have to pay them the same as they were on Kickstart. This has come up before, particularly in relation to ILM, and clearly it is an issue for the individuals who are looking at clearly being paid a minimum wage on the Kickstart and then having to maybe drop down in terms of salary because apprenticeship minimum wage legally is potentially what you can pay them. We do clearly want employers to pay national minimum wage, national living wage, and that's what we would encourage. But legally, you can pay them the apprenticeship minimum wage. I hope that answers your question. Caroline has said, any advice on young people who may not have grade A to C in English and maths? Will this be a barrier to them starting on an apprenticeship? We do have some issues with that. You know, certain training providers would prefer candidates to have A star to C in English and maths. Ideally, what we try to do is encourage them to take on those apprentices who haven't got those grades and look to provide functional skills alongside the apprenticeship. Now, it does differ by provider, but it is a conversation we can get into with you if you're looking to move somebody on onto an apprenticeship, and we can talk to the training providers as well. Okay, Debbie's asking, how do we access the half price rail and bus travel? So that is through the combined authority. We can clearly send out some more information to you, Debbie, or anybody else. We can send a link to that after this event. Phil might be the best one to answer this next one. Phil, Annette's asking, do you think Kickstart will continue after December?
Annette, I would hope so, but unfortunately at this point DWP have not confirmed whether there's any plans to extend. As a gateway, we are asking the question continuously as to whether it will get extended, either extended for placements that are agreed but unfilled, or extended for new placements to be confirmed. I think as soon as we have any more information on that, as a gateway, we'll go out to all of our employers and we'll continue to take applications until we're told otherwise.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sue. Then more clarification on how you apply for the half price travel. It is through the provider, although it comes through the combined authority. So clearly we can pick up on that. And I think that's all we have currently in terms of questions. We're just a minute from 12:30. If anyone's got anything else, here's another. Lisa's asking, do apprentices need to have started the apprenticeship before the 30th of September to be eligible for the £3,000 payment? We have new apprentices that are due to start in the trust as HCA apprentices, but they won't be starting in college until mid-October. What date do they go off? So clearly we work to the deadlines that Sue mentioned there. Sue, do you want to pick up on that one?
Yeah, so that's fine, as long as they start the apprenticeship before the end of November. So the 30th of November, they must start the apprenticeship. So that's absolutely fine for the apprentices that you've got at the moment.
Fantastic. And then will the slides be sent out from today so I can share with our employers? Yes, Stuart, we will send the slides out from today. So obviously it'd be great if you could share that with your employers. And if your employers have got any queries about anything we've discussed today or got any training needs at all, more than happy for them to contact us directly. That's what we're here to do, to support those employers. Okay, I think we're just coming up to, well, just past 12:30. hopefully you've all found that useful. Thanks, Caroline, for your
Yes, thank
input
you.
into today.
Thanks, Caroline.
Caroline from LCC, that's been really great. And if anybody's got any more queries, please go to our webpage or please email us and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, so I'm going to finish the webinar today. Thanks to all the speakers. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Sue.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
And we'll hopefully be in touch soon when we've got more to say about apprenticeships or any other training needs that we're looking to promote.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.